Hello, Facebook family and friends. Look, I've been sitting on something that the Lord revealed to me quite a while ago. And so recently I was in prayer earlier this week and it came back to mind. So, what the revelation is, it concerns the spiritual dimension of abusive relationships. And I don't know why he brought it back to my mind. I don't know why he reminded me of it, but I've been sitting on it. I'd written it down in a journal of mine and just parked it in my office someplace. And so perhaps this is something for you or someone that you know. So again, the spiritual dimension of abusive relationships. Now I want to begin with the creation story because according to the creation story in Genesis 2:21, the woman Eve was made in the very image of God. She was formed from the same material as Adam. As a matter of fact, you may read in the Bible or you've been told that the woman was formed from the rib of Adam, but it's not the rib, it was his entire side. God put the man to sleep and took his side. And from his side, he built another human being. And that human being was woman. And so the story goes that Adam and Eve were literally two from one. And she inherently had the same rights, dignity, and value as the man. They were equal, full range partners at creation, and God saw all that He had made, including the two genders of humans, and it was good. The word good means to be functionally perfect for His purposes. They both, as one, bore the image of God, which means that they represented His divine glory to the rest of His creation. Another way of looking at that is if God had a shadow, man and woman were that shadow. So, our purpose as men is to maintain God's divine order established at creation by seeing women as co heirs and full ranged partners with God given equal rights and worthy of honor and not humiliation. But that brings us to men who have a twisted, toxic soul. Men that have this twisted, toxic soul, they don't see women that way. God formed the woman's body to be the vehicle of her worship. Now, worship is displaying back to God his worth. We see that in the scripture that says, present your bodies as a living sacrifice. It's your reasonable act of worship. That's Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Now, that means that her body has a higher purpose than sex. An abusive man is a man who is really competing with God for power and glory. So he turns her body into his temple of worship of himself. And I would say that most, if not all, abusive men have a self image of powerlessness. Now, abusing a woman is his way of compensating himself by taking dominion over her body and her soul. And you'll notice one thing that abusing one woman doesn't satisfy his craving for power. So he victimizes several other women, becoming a serial abuser. In fact, a lot of these women know each other and talk about the situation. They talk about the relationships. So to him, sex is power and control. Now, I have to mention here at this point that I think abusive men can somehow detect brokenness in a woman's soul. Let me say that again. I think abusive men can somehow detect brokenness in a woman's soul. Throughout his life, certain women just show up on his radar that he knows he can overcome and conquer. So there's another level of attraction beyond the physical, and that level is the spiritual, which is the domain of the soul. Have you ever wondered why some women that you know are persistently drawn to abusive men, no matter how much you warn them and talk about it? So, but maybe you can identify with this. Maybe I'm talking to you. Like I said, I don't know. So, what abusive men do through a woman's body and mind, he leaves disfiguring damage on her soul. His abuse leaves his fingerprints on her soul, and he makes her an extension of his soul. Her soul is tormented by unclean spirits he trafficked into her life through seducing lies and her submission of her body for what he sees as an act of worship. So, sex is used in an abusive relationship to gain access to a woman's soul. Her soul is where she thinks, feels, rejects God, or trusts God. It's where she meets God. And so the soul is the meeting place between God and all human beings. So the abusive man's his sin disfigures her soul. This is not her fault. It's not something that she's done wrong. It's not that she is ain't got no sense. It's just that this man is controlled by powers and forces that she cannot see. So again, the abusive man's his sin disfigures her soul. Now the devil uses sin as his contractor to disfigure the souls of God's image bearers. Her soul becomes a perversion of what God said was good, and that's functional. So the perversion is a dysfunctional soul. So I want to continue talking about this, and I have uh, the remainder of this revelation I got from the Lord, and it goes deeper into the spiritual dimension of what happens through sex, through these relationships, and why they continue to be pervasive in this woman's life and woman's life. So thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And again, I'm going to drop that video pretty shortly here and get deeper into the spiritual dimension of abusive relationships. All right. Bye bye.